On the 4th of October 2024, the city of Bulawayo in Zimbabwe witnessed an event that shook its residents to the core. This was a one-of-a-kind occurrence that hadn't been witnessed in over 2 decades. It led to the country's leading investigation faculty of law enforcement, teaming up with Interpol and the South African Police Service. What was the reason for all this chaos, one might ask? It was a gang of armed robbers that had pulled off the most lucrative heist in the country's history. It was a brazen robbery that took place in broad daylight in front of hundreds of eyewitnesses. The gang had managed to get away with a mouth-watering $4 million. The target had been an Ecobank branch located in the city's central business district. This happens to be one of the country's leading banking institutions, known to be heavily guarded and boasting a security system that rendered it a fortress. However, the gang of 6 robbers made it look as easy as taking candy from a baby. When police reviewed security footage and cell phone videos captured by onlookers, something ominous caught their eye. The gang of robbers conducted themselves in a very calm and organized manner, indicative of a tactical assault military unit. Every man had a specific role. There was a getaway driver, 2 lookouts to subdue any wannabe heroes, and a pointman who was assisted by 2 other gunmen. The gang was armed with automatic rifles and wore masks to conceal their identities. It was definitely clear these guys weren't amateurs in the game. This wasn't their first rodeo. The police had been following a trail of robberies that followed the same method of operating and had linked the gang to 4 open cases that were still under investigation. I just realized that over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed, so please go ahead and hit that button. It costs nothing to you, my audience, but it means that would to me as an aspiring content creator. Now that we've handled that, let's get into the meat and bones of today's story and unravel the details of Zimbabwe's biggest heist. On the morning of Friday the 4th, 2024, an armored van under the company name of Safeguard was scheduled to do a cash pickup at the Ecobank branch located in the city's central business district. This was a 3-man job and nothing seemed out of the norm. The Safeguard security crew drove up to the National Railway building where the Ecobank branch was located and turned into an alleyway that led to the bank staff exit. The driver put the car in neutral and his colleague exited the van and walked towards the rear end to open the steel doors to let out the 3rd man, who rode in the back with the cash. As one guard swiped his access card to enter the bank, the other kept watch and the driver sat at his post. This was all standard protocol for the security team of 3. Everything was going as scheduled, and the guard that had entered the bank returned with the bank manager and a couple of staff who were assisting in carrying the trunks of cash. 2 trunks had been successfully loaded into the back of the armored van when the guard noticed a Ford Ranger truck with tinted windows slowly pull up towards a traffic light. What caught the guard's attention was the number of men who sat at the back of the Ford trucker. The truck waited at the light, and as soon as it turned green, it took off aggressively, tires screeching and engine revving loudly. It accelerated aggressively towards the armored van and abruptly came to a halt. The men sitting at the back sprung into action, jumping out of the truck with their rifles drawn. The 2 Safeguard security guards were outgunned and outnumbered. One of the gunmen let off a few warning shots into the air to let everyone know they meant business. They were wielding some heavy firepower and they wouldn't hesitate to use it. The driver of the armored van and his lookout were instructed to surrender the service weapons. The 2 security guards complied swiftly, knowing they stood no chance in a gunfight with the assailants. The 2 guards lay on their stomachs with their hands behind their heads as 2 of the gunmen proceeded to the back of the armored van and quickly started loading the trunks of cash into the back of their getaway vehicle. At this time, the 3rd guard, who had returned to collect more trunks of cash with the manager and 2 other bank employees, emerged from the exit and was greeted with a strike to the face by a rifles but stock. He immediately got the message and read the situation for what it truly was. This drove the fear of God into the manager and the bank employees, and they quickly put their arms up in a gesture of submission. Remember, this was all taking place in one of the city's most densely populated areas, and stunned onlookers were stunned. Some were fleeing the area and those at a distance had their phones out recording the spectacle. The attention didn't seem to faze the gang. They had tunnel vision and were hellbent on completing their objective. They loaded the other trunks that had been brought out by the 3rd guard and bank employees. This all took place in a span of 2 minutes, and soon as the last trunk was loaded into the getaway car, the pointman signaled to his gang to make their exit. The crew hopped into the back of their truck and mashed the accelerator, leaving a streak of tire marks in their wake. Just like that, the gang had made away with $4 million in cold hard cash. The bank manager ran back into the bank to trigger the alarm, and law enforcement was on the scene 10 minutes later. The detectives quickly started to canvass the area for clues and retrieving shell casings left at the scene when one of the gunmen fired warning shots in the air. Law enforcement managed to collect statements from onlookers who had witnessed the whole event and were more than forthcoming with information. When the Zimbabwean Republic Police pieced together all the information from their evidence locker, they soon established a pattern by linking this robbery to 2 other robberies carried in a similar fashion. The public was desperate for answers, prompting the police spokesperson Paul Nyathi to release a statement to the media. The spokesperson revealed that they had contacted neighboring South Africa law enforcement as they believed the gang was a transnational syndicate that would ply its trade in both Zimbabwe and South Africa, constantly moving between borders to throw law enforcement off their scent. Interpol had also joined the manhunt. The Joint Task Force had made a break though, and the names of the suspects had been brought forward. The gang's identities had been unmasked. The suspects named were Elijah Vambunu, his brother, Takafa Vambunu, David Sawadai, Israel Zulu, Kutakwash Mudzingwa, Paul Chinek, and Brian Murray. Elijah is said to be the ringleader. He has a storied life of crime. In 2018, he was a beneficiary of a presidential amnesty, having served 14 years of a 40-year sentence for armed robbery. Upon his release, he spoke about what he had lost while in jail. It had been communicated to me that my wife had moved on and it hurt, but I just accepted that I had been away for 14 years, she could not have waited that long. After all, she was only 18 years old when I left her, he said. Since then, he has featured as an alleged ringleader in numerous unsolved robberies in Zimbabwe. Before Ecobank, he was implicated with his brother, Tafaka, and Zulu in a 2022 attack on a Haumine security convoy, which was robbed of 11.9 kilograms of gold, worth about $14.5 million, and $650,000 cash, more than our $11 million. Last year, police said Zulu had been neutralized in an exchange of gunfire with officers who were hunting him. Now, they say he's alive. The police announced that $4 million had been taken by the robbers, an amount numerous bankers argue was strange to be kept at a bank branch, instead of a cash depot. Safeguard, the contracted security company, said it had no idea that it was going to transport such a figure. Andrew Mallon, the chief executive officer of Safeguard, in a letter addressed to clients, said they should stick to agreed-upon limits for the movement of cash to avoid what occurred at Ecobank. A $4 million move obviously poses a significant risk and is well outside any contracted limit for Safeguard and almost certainly the security industry Africa-wide, he said. The fact that this gang knew all the intricate details of such a huge transport of money raises questions. How they are sourcing their intel remains a puzzle. So are their whereabouts. Despite their names being presented to the media, the suspects still remain at large. Evading capture and outwitting 3 law enforcement agencies. Is this just luck, or there's more than meets the eye? For an update on the case, hit that subscribe and notification button. Mystery Reporter signing out.